Good day to all of you, and welcome to Weekends with Alex Witt. Just past 1 p.m. in the east, 10 a.m. out west. We're going to get to what's happening right now out there. Sharp words today from a key negotiator as we inch closer to the fiscal cliff. First, Treasury Secretary Tim Geithner on the president's offer to Republicans, followed by a response from Grover Norquist, the man behind the decades-old no tax hike pledge embraced by many in the GOP.
What we're trying to do is to make it more likely we come together on a good agreement for the American people that extends tax cuts for the middle class.
You think we'll get a deal by the end of the year?
I do, because the only thing standing in the way of that would be a refusal by Republicans to accept that rates are going to have to go up on the wealthiest Americans. And I don't really see them doing that.
It's the president who's threatening to raise taxes on the middle class if he doesn't stamp his feet and get his way. He should get into a room with C-SPAN cameras there and negotiate. So instead of hearing rhetoric like this, that was all show, no economics. Let's have it in front of C-SPAN cameras. And if the Republicans are being reasonable, we'll see that. If they're not, we'll see that.
Joining me now, politics staff writer for Roll Call Shira Toeplitz and national political reporter for Politico, David Cantonese. Hello, you guys. Good to see you both.
Hey, Alex.
Good to see you, too. We'll go ladies first here with you, Shira. So did anything that you just heard there suggest we're any closer to an agreement?
Not really. The fact of the matter is the White House has put forth this plan, this proposal. Congressional Republicans, House Speaker John Boehner has rejected it. He said this morning he was flabbergasted by some of the proposals the White House suggested. We're really at a standstill right now until the White House comes back and puts out another plan, which they have indicated they probably don't want to do, or congressional Republicans come back with a response and some more details about what kind of savings they would like to have in a future proposal.
How about a full GOP plan, Shira? How come we haven't seen one of those?
Well, I think congressional Republicans are waiting to see if the White House will come back to the table with a plan that they'll like a little bit more than the one Geithner proposed earlier this week. Perhaps one with more details on what kind of cuts would come to these entitlement programs.
Okay, David, I'm curious about this Grover Norquist, because this is a man who's never run for office. He's never gotten a single vote. Why does the GOP essentially let him speak for them?
Well, you know, you're starting to see his coalition crack. You know, you've seen senators come out, whether it be Saxby Chambliss, who was up for re-election in 2014, Senator Corker, who was on Meet the Press today. You know, he has come out and said, I'm not going to abide by the Norquist pledge. So you're seeing it start to crack. Sure, he still has a lot of weight over the Republican Party, but I do think you're seeing that is beginning to change, because it looks like taxes are going to go up. Republicans know this in one way or another. If they do get a deal, it looks like tax rates will probably go up. Maybe not much for the wealthy, but they will. And if you don't get a deal, taxes go up for everyone. So I don't see a way out of this without taxes going up for some portion of the American public.
Well, you know, Shira, House Speaker John Boehner spoke today about his reaction when Tim Geithner first shared the president's proposal. Let's listen to this.
I was just flabbergasted. I looked at him and said, you can't be serious. I've just never seen anything like it. You know, we've got 7 weeks between Election Day and the end of the year. And 3 of those weeks have been wasted with this nonsense.
Okay.
How do you interpret that, Shira? I mean, does that sound to you like Speaker Boehner is willing to compromise?
It sounds like Speaker Boehner would like the White House to come forth with a second offer, and we'll see if the White House is willing to do that before Republicans put some ideas of their own on the table. Look, House Republicans, and Speaker Boehner included, have spent the last 4 days basically claiming outrage by this Geithner proposal. And although they've detailed some things they'd like to see, these entitlements, Medicare programs, and savings, they haven't put together much more. So we'll see what happens if the White House comes back again. I kind of doubt they'll do it before Speaker Boehner put something else on the table.
You know, David, I'm curious, do you think that the lack of real specifics from either side, do you think each side is worried that if they put specifics out there, then they're going to have to own certain things, like cuts to entitlement programs, or like saying, all right, we're going to raise taxes on these people, things that aren't going to be tremendously popular when you poll people one by one?
Yeah,
mortgage deductions, that's another one.
there's no question about it, but I'd also say that a lot of this is bravado and posturing, and this deal isn't going to be crafted on the Sunday morning talk shows. A lot of this is speaking to the base, but I don't think that, the president hasn't put serious entitlement cuts on the table. The Republicans haven't been specific about their own spending cuts on what they would agree to, but a lot of them feel burned about the old debt ceiling negotiation last summer and how that played out. I think the White House feels very burned about how that turned out, so they're not going to put all their cards on the table. They think they won the election, and they did win the election, and polls also show that the blame, if they go over the fiscal cliff, the blame would rest on congressional Republicans. So the White House and Democrats believe they are holding more cards in this debate.
Oh, okay. You talk about the blame being on Republicans, but Shira, I just spoke with former chair of the DNC, Governor Howard Dean, who he said he thinks we should go over the fiscal cliff and that we will go over the fiscal cliff. I mean,
well, he's the first person I have heard say that in public, that he thinks that we should go over the fiscal cliff. Everyone I talk to in Washington wants to avoid going over the fiscal cliff. They do not want to see this. And most importantly, they don't want to get the blame for it. And that's why congressional Republicans, in the end, will probably be pretty motivated to negotiate with the White House. It might be Christmas Eve, it might be New Year's Eve, but in the end, that's what's going to bring them to the table.
And that was the point he was making. He says, that at some point, then after a week or two, there would be the negotiations. And he actually said it was, instead of a fiscal cliff, he said it was more like a fiscal curve. So for what that's worth. David, if Americans, though, are going to blame the GOP more so than the president for going over the fiscal cliff, how much leverage do you think that gives the president as negotiations are underway?
I think it gives him substantial leverage right now, and that's why you see, him not revealing all his cards, saying you guys have to come to us. And Speaker Boehner has to start with this opening position. He would lose his speakership if he came right out of the box in the first week in negotiation with the president and said, "Sure, Mr. President, we agree with you on taxes. We lost the election." So this has to be his starting position. But remember, it is only December 2nd. We do have a month. I think, Senator Lindsey Graham saying we're going to go over the fiscal cliff, I don't necessarily buy that either, that we do have a month to try to get through this. And I think that you will see both sides move towards that position in the ensuing weeks.
Okay, David Catanese and Shira Toeplitz, thank you guys. And by the way, if we don't get there, you all can come back right over the holidays and work with me. We'll talk about it then.
Sure.
Okay,
We'll be here.
Sure. Thank you much. You can